Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I'm gonna showcase a build that I've been working on for, actually since a couple of days in my brain, basically. And since I came back from vacation yesterday evening, I said, like, let's put this together, let's test this out. And I want to showcase this version of an elemental hit or tri-ally elemental hit slayer using power charge stacking of its source of damage, and then I'm using Badge of the Brotherhood to get the equal amount of frenzy charges, and then using Masterful Form Slayer Ascendancy to get the equal amount of endurance charges. So as of right now, I'm running 39 charges. Basically, I have a power charge on crit, so this is then when it comes to mapping. And with the replica Pharaoh's Four and an aspect of the cat, I can permanently sustain my endurance and frenzy charges. So there is many things to talk about this build, but first of all, I want to give a disclaimer. This build is not really worth trying out, okay? It is not performing on the level where I was hoping it's to get it at some point, but it's still, like, quite interesting the way I build it up, the way it works. So I still want to showcase what was my thought process, how does things work together, and yeah, basically maybe have this idea for another league when we get like other items to maybe scale a certain amount of damage and maybe return to that, because overall I think it's a very fun and fast character to play with. It is not using any Headhunter, Mageblood or anything like that. This is just a typical live rest build. Also got myself some triple Temple Gloves with the crit strike against shocked enemies, chilled enemies, and flat fire damage against burning enemies. So I would say we're gonna run like one or two maps, and then basically we're gonna talk about the build, how everything is working together, and how I set this one up. So we're just gonna section this one, just take anything. Magic monster is fine, extra cold damage, and convert when killed, I guess it's fine. So as of right now, the main goal of this character is just to map, okay? As you see on the gems and so on, it's pretty, like, empty at some parts, just because I don't know what else to put in. Because we're also using the Sublime Vision Jewel, if I find it, which says +1 to maximum power charges while affected by Discipline. So this character can only use one single aura, and this is Discipline. All the other things like Aspect of the Cat, Blood and Sand, Arctic Armor, as well as Spellslinger are not auras, so I can actually use them. And the goal of this is actually, like, can we make a character that is completely utilizing power charges as a source of damage, basically, right? As I said, we have 3 on the tree, we have 3 natural, right? It makes it 6 power charges. Double Void Battery makes it 8 power charges. I have a +2 power charge helmet, which makes it 10 power charges. Double +1 ring makes it 12, and then through this, thanks to Sublime Vision, we have 13 power charges. And if you have the currency, you could take +2 power charge rings, which would be a total of 15 charges, so 45 charges in total, which is kind of interesting. But I would say let's quickly run here 1 or 2 maps. As I said, I made this character just to try it out. Sadly, it does not perform the way I would like it to be. We're not ailment immune since we cannot run Purity of Elements. We have no shield. We have no real boots. I have like an elevated Tailwind, Onslaught, Elusive with some spell suppression. So I decided to make this character 100% spell suppression capped. But as I said, it's not ailment immune. So therefore, there is this layer of defense kind of missing. But overall, you start the map, you shoot one single time. We do have a chain setup and a spell slinger. So once you shoot one single time, the stuff, as you see, this character is so freaking fast. Thanks to Elusive, Tailwind, Onslaught, I got myself some Arena Challenger charges based on the Forbidden Flame and Flesh. So not only do we have like 39 charges right now, it's also +10 from the Arena Challenger charges. And it's actually quite fun to play. And in terms of the clearing, you are kind of socket starved, I would say. That means there are some generic things that you want to take. For example, ally damage with attacks. You have like your skill gem. You have Trinity support. You have what is it? Chain right now. I cannot get in a chain and an awakened GMP for more projectiles. But thanks to the Dying Sun, we do have 4 projectiles, and every of my projectiles is actually flapping around like 3 or 4 times. And thanks to the Spell Slinger applying a Sniper's Mark, once this enemy gets hit, it will like split up in like I don't know how many charges, and it's just a very fun and fast build to just run around and just blow things up with your ally hit, right? And as of right now, I'm sitting on 39 challenges, so there is only one single challenge missing, and this one is the activate Eater of Worlds art tiles. There's like 300 missing. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna finish this one today and then move on to the next build. Sadly, this build is just... Yes, it is quite fun and fast, and you might, most likely going to say like, yo, that actually doesn't look bad. I mean, what's the problem with that, right? But I think it has a severe lack of defense. As I said, it's not ailment immune. We only have like the normal, what is it, 75 for some all res. No big armor, evasion, or anything like that, so I would not really take a build like that into the endgame content. And with endgame content, I'm talking about 100% daily. I would not take this to like uber boss farming or anything like that. It turned out to be a strictly fast mapper, and therefore I don't think it's worth building just like that. Because like there's other fast mappers that have the option to do uber bosses as well. If you would like to do uber bosses, you would swap out your chain for a barrage, which basically doubles your DPS. I think my current version does have something around, with barrage, like 16 mil shaper DPS or something like that, and without, with a chain, it's so fun. Once you hit the first enemy, you're just like equipping your rocket boots and just like instantly like run through everything. It's so enjoyable, actually. What I was saying, yeah, as I said, like with barrage setup, it would be like 17 or 16 mil DPS. We need to check that in my POV that I'll link in the bottom of the description. And without, like with the chain support, you still have like 7 million DPS. So what this build makes also like a bit special, it utilizes all 3 elements. So since Ellie hit swaps between all the elements, like this one was cold, then we have lightning, then we have fire, then we have lightning. So it swaps between everything, so it's perfectly fitted for a Trinity support, as well as elemental equilibrium to swap between the exposures, basically. Because if you hit with fire, it's going to get lightning and cold exposure. If you hit with cold damage, it's lightning and fire. Pretty much the same way, with the perfect synergy of your, what is it? Trinity support, because it also empowers the other attacks that you're gonna use, right? So I hit with fire, then my lightning and cold damage get empowered in this case, right? And since the ally hit actually swaps between the elements, it's a very decent way of like choosing out some DPS. But I think the main issue of this build would be that Poet's Pen, or at least Void Batteries, just doesn't have the kind of damage. I would say we run one more map just for the feels good, and then we're gonna talk about what is this build special, you know? What do I get from power charges? Why do I run endurance charge on melee stun on a Wander, as well as like the other things that I had in my mind when building this character. But as I said, maybe there will be another patch, another league where we could utilize something like that even more. Holy shit. I mean, if people see that showcase, they will most likely say, oh yeah, it's a Headhunter build, it has inspired learning, but no, it doesn't use any of those. As you see on my buff bar. And here you see one of the small little issues that I have on the build while building it. Once you are getting too fast, there is like no way of sustaining your mana. I currently use Eldritch Battery to get the best use out of the discipline. Since I'm Slayer, I have Overleech, but with like Energy Shield, I don't do anything at all. So in that case, I decided to go with Eldritch Battery to use my energy, my discipline from the Supreme Vision basically as my mana pool in that case, right? And then we have some, I think I bought like a Watcher's Eye for like 30 chaos or something, that basically just has like Energy Shield recovery rate and what else was it, like Energy Shield regen or something like that, just to get hold of like the insane mana cost with that kind of speed. But as you see, dude, I'm a fucking race car. I mean, yeah, I got the shrine buff, so it's a bit cheating, but overall it's still, I don't know, like it's a fun build, but still not really living up to the expectations that I had to it. Okay, I would say let's start with the first thing, power charge stacking or triple charge stacking, and why do I not use the belt that gives me triple charges? So I would say, let's open this one. So we scale entirely power charges, and then I get the frenzy charges, the equal amount to my power charges with the Badge of your Brotherhood, as well as the frenzy equal to endurance, or the other way around, from the Masterful Form Slayer Ascendancy. And what that gives me is basically I scale 1 power charge, or 5 here, and I get the same amount of frenzy and endurance charges. So usually, typically, a power charge gives me crit strike chance, a frenzy charge gives me attack, cast speed, and more damage, and the endurance charge gives me all resistance as well as some physical damage mitigation per endurance charge. And the way I build it, basically, with having like a large or very large thread of hope, taking Disciple of the Slaughter, Disciple of the Unyielding, as well as specking up over here, Disciple of the Forbidden. Damn, that's a widespread tree over here. We basically get a total of, let's do 10 power charges, right? We get like, or at least let's do 13 because this is the current version that I'm running, right? 15 would be possible. I would get 624 increased crit strike chance, 234% increased damage, crit multi, mana regen, power charge on kill, increased 1 damage, more damage based on my power charge on crit, spell damage from the tree plus spell damage from my void batteries. The increased movement speed was with my old boots that I had. Then from the frenzy charges, attack speed, cast speed, more damage, increased damage thanks to Disciple of the Slaughter. Then we have like accuracy rating if you want to go for the gloves implicit with like the Searing, Exile, and these kind of things. And the endurance charges give all res, physical damage mitigation 52, 169 increased damage, endurance charge on kill, and more damage here as well. And you might wonder like, wait, why don't you play the typical Slayer version where you would convert? I think I have the belt laying around here somewhere. Let me quickly check. I think I had it enchanted. Here it is. So Arn's Anguish, right? Arn's Anguish would actually convert my endurance charges into brutal charges, which basically gives me a 3% chance to triple damage once once you have like your charges up, right? And we can't permanently sustain it because it's now, instead of endurance charge, it's brutal charge. But the thing with this build, we are using endurance charge or melee stun. And this actually gives you also 4% more damage per endurance charge. So not only do my 13 power endurance charges give me the typical Ellie res and physical damage mitigation, it also gives me a shit ton of more damage, basically. So as I said, like, we get triple the more damage in that case, right? So if we would go in a perfect world where we would have +2 power charge rings, we would get 60% more damage thanks to power charge on crit, we would get 60% more damage based on our frenzy charges, and we also get 60% more damage based on our endurance charges. And this is actually stronger than the triple charges, and I'm free to use any belt, and I get the defenses based on the all resistance physical damage mitigation. So just like standing here, I already have 74% physical damage mitigation. If I use my flasks, I'm actually up to 90%. But this is against small hits. But the thing is, with endurance charges, this is a global thing. Remember how armor is based on how hard enemies are hitting you. If you have 90% physical damage mitigation with like 30k armor or something, that's very good against small hits, but the very big hits that do only get reduced by like a certain amount. Other than endurance charges, which is a permanent 4%. I could have 0 armor here, and I would still have, no matter how big the hit is, it will get reduced by this amount because it's a global physical damage reduction. Good. So, how does endurance charge or melee stun work on a wonder build? Might be the next question. And there is only 2 skills that make that possible. One is the Ellie hit, and the other one is the the frenzy. And frenzy works pretty much the same way. It also gets supported by the endurance charge or melee stun because the tags that they have and the tags that they share, which is here: attack, projectile, melee, strike, bow. And here we have attack, projectile, melee, strike, fire, cold, lightning, AoE, prismatic, and bow. And that means that the endurance charge and melee stun does work because both of those have a melee tag, right? And other than something like multi-strike, I think this is a wording thing, and there might be a change on that as well in the upcoming league once GGG sees this video on how it works, right? But maybe they're also laughing on how bad this build is in that case, and they're like, whatever, right? So, what basically means, if I have a multi-strike over here, it does get supported, but I don't have it. So I'm pressing one single time and you see only one attack, while multi-strike actually makes you have multiple attacks, right? But the endurance charge and melee stun does work because it's a standalone line here, 4% more damage per endurance charge. It says supports melee attack skills, but this one has a melee attack, frenzy, and Ellie hit, and that's why it actually works this way. And I tested this with just having a completely annulled off ring with like just one minimum endurance charge, and when I'm standing here equipping the ring, my damage goes up without any other sources, so I know it does work even for the one projectile skill. Good. If we talk about why Ellie hit over frenzy, well, frenzy, like, the big problem is we do have on this build a massive amount of more damage, increased damage. But if you have shit base damage, then your damage will still be shit, okay? Because you can have 1000% more damage. If you only deal 10 damage, you're gonna have shit damage overall, right? So, and that's why ally hit in that case is better, because the gem itself comes already with flat damage, and the void batteries don't really have damage. As you see, they have like 35 to 64 physical damage, and we don't even deal physical damage because we convert everything into the certain element and then only deal damage. So that's the reason why ally hit is better than frenzy in this kind of version. But these are the only two skills that I found out that work as a wonder and are both getting supported by the endurance charge on melee stun. Good. Why ally hit? Why do we use triple ally instead of just going the typical Avatar of Fire route? So first of all, as I said, the ally hit will also like alternate between the elements. Right here was lightning, fire, cold, lightning, cold, fire, and so on, right? So with specking elemental equilibrium, since we have all three damage sources, we're gonna profit like 66% out of most of the time, because it says, do you hit with fire, you get exposure to lightning and cold, which empowers those two attacks, right? If you hit with cold, then you will empower lightning and fire, right? And since it alternates between the skills all the time, you still get a big profit. There are chances to have like the same, similar, I think there is even a chance to have the same attack twice, but I'm not sure. It's fire, lightning, cold, fire, lightning, fire, lightning, fire, cold. So I don't think that actually works, but still, even if it would deal the same damage twice in a row, then you would still benefit 66% of ally equilibrium, because in the end of the day, you cannot be so unlucky to hit the same element over and over again to never benefit from the exposure. Good. As I said, elemental equilibrium, we alternate elements, so we're gonna apply an exposure with 25% negative resistance to our next attack. The same way with Trinity support. So since we alternate again, that means that we have full blast on our Trinity support. That means I hit with lightning. It gets the resonances of fire and cold, always the opposites, right? So I hit with lightning and it empowers fire and cold. I hit with cold, it empowers fire and lightning. So it works perfectly fine for the ally equilibrium on top. And since we only need two elements to get the full use out of ally equilibrium, we still have all three, and so it's absolutely no problem of keeping that up. So that's like an entire synergy. Some people might wonder, why do I not convert things like my physical? I could run fist to cold, for example, right? But this is actually bad because, first of all, ally hit will block any other damage source. So if my ally hit decides to fire with fire, then I do not have any cold or lightning damage whatsoever. So for example, the implicit on this one adds 17 to 34 fire damage. This will only be active if my shot is actually fire, right? And it gets discarded if not. And that's why most of the people run the Avatar of Fire and block lightning and cold. But I wanted to take another take on this, like a triple element Trinity ally equilibrium kind of like theme, so I went with that. But don't forget, once you have Avatar of Fire, you can only deal fire damage, so ally equilibrium falls off. You cannot inflict ailments anymore, and ally hit has also the line 10% more damage per elemental ailment. And since we have triple element, we're gonna shock, we're gonna chill, and we're gonna ignite the enemy, so it's another 30% more damage on the existing damage. Good. That's about the explanation. Why do we use that skill? What is the next thing? Power charge LE. So nothing over here. Good. As I said, void batteries are very, very bad weapons, but LE hit comes with the base added damage, but still I think it's not really enough to get like a good build. I mean, with discharge it would be absolutely nutty, and this might be a future build that I just say like, you know what, let's try to make like a 10 billion discharge cast on death build or something like that. Good. When it comes to the projectiles, so some people might say, yo, you're playing a Wonder and you have only 2 projectiles. One projectile I get from the Wand Mastery, as well as the increase in reductions to spell damage applied to attacks while wielding a wand. That's why we can use the spell damage out of the void batteries and convert them into attack damage for our wand, right? And here we have another one that has the additional projectiles. And with the Dying Sun, it would be 4 projectiles once we're mapping, which is so fine just because we do use a Spell Sling or Sniper's Mark. That means if I attack, the monster is getting the Sniper's Mark, and if a projectile hits the Sniper marked enemy, it like explodes and like has like 10 additional projectiles. And with the chain support, each of these projectiles will chain multiple times, and you saw in the map showcase, even though only having 2 projectiles, it is so fine enough for the map clearing, 1 single shot, and you are fine. You could also play this with a triple Herald setup, because Heralds are not auras, and since we cannot use auras based on the Sublime Vision, we could use that too, but a Herald of Ice will only do something if we actually have a cold shot, right? Herald of Thunder with increased lightning damage will only do something if we have a lightning shot on our Ellie hit. So we are only utilizing 33% of a Herald. Yes, we do have the explosion, especially when it comes to the Herald of Ash, but Herald of Ice, for example, will only go off if my cold portion of Ellie hits, right? And this is like so much low percentage, and I like characters that do have a good overall base, basically, right? That everything works at any given point, right? That's why I also run the Replica Pharos to have my Norn charges, so I can min-max my all resistance with standing in hideout. I'm not relying to killing something to actually have a certain form of survivability. And that's the same thing if you wonder, on a triple Ellie build, you cannot really use any other auras anyways, because, for example, similar ways I explained with the Heralds, let's assume we use Hatred. Hatred is the best cold aura in the game, like obviously, right? But since it's only a 33% chance to have a cold damage hit, basically, that means that my Hatred only has 33% effectiveness, right? The same counts with Anger, the same counts with Wrath, and anything like that, because if you play triple Ellie, there's only a 33% chance that the element that you need is actually chosen. And that's why I say, with the Sublime Vision, this was the right take on it, to say like, I'm gonna use Discipline, and I'm gonna use Eldritch Battery to have use out of the Discipline, basically, right? So we use that as a source of mana, and since the recharge is always active, we have a good sustain of our mana cost, basically, right? And the other auras, Blood and Sand is basically for my Forbidden Flame and Flesh combo for the Arena Challenger charges. So we do have Sand Stance and Blood Stance, and with attacking, we're gonna get the Challenger charges for the more attack speed and more movement speed. And this build is actually ridiculously fast. So if, let me quickly open up my PUB here. This is the current state. As I said, I would do all the same. I would just replace Chain and Barrage if you go for mapping. It's like 7 or close to 8 mil. And then basically almost double the DPS by having Barrage in there. Actually more than double the DPS. But we have like 295% movement speed. No Headhunter, no Mage Plot, no nothing. 300% movement speed walking around. And you always see this every time you attack one single monster and you're elusive, your Tailwind, your Challenger charges, all of that goes off. You're like one speedy character. So as you see, I'm just gonna fire one single time. I have already 12 power charges, and now check the speed, you know? This is like a kind of speed where I would say, now we're getting on the top part of clearing, because like there are builds with like 1000% movement speed, but this feels kind of shitty because you're just running against every single wall. You have no control over your character, right? But I would say somewhere between 200 and 300% movement speed is exactly what you want to have for a speedy character that is just very fun and fast to play, right? God, actually Blood Aqueduct Surrender. Dude, this is actually insane. But yeah, what else can I say about the build? Some people might be wondering about the transmogs, as always, or at least like the MTX, which is the complete Gargoyle set. With double Scavenger Weapon and the Infernal Crystalline charges from the mystery boxes. Nothing else. Then we have like Astral Portal effect and the Shadow Stalker elemental hit. All the other auras are just disabled because I don't like it when my character looks like a Christmas tree. Pantheons, I haven't even bothered doing anything with that because I don't need them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So let me quickly think about, is there anything else that I want to talk about that is worth doing? Before I stop this video. I mean, today on stream, I'm gonna finish my last 298 altars, and then I have 40 of 40, and then we're gonna see what builds we're gonna come up with to do some like end league projects, right? Because we are like 35 days or something into the league. And now it's about to test things out, making some insane, crazy characters to, I don't know, farm whatever we want. As I said, I maybe go get myself into some custom death discharge builds to have like the small little dream of having like a 10 billion damage per discharge kind of theme to one shot like all the Uber endgame bosses. Good. Yeah, I don't know. I'll leave you the PUB in the description below if somebody is willing or want to put more work into a character like that. I think the main issue is that we have too low base damage. So Ellie hit does come with base damage. Maybe you need like a couple of extra levels on your chest, for example, to squeeze out some more DPS. I'm pretty safe to say that I would get to like 30-40 million with like really good gear. But for the investment, 30-40 mil with then being like kind of squishy, you know, not having like 90% max res, not running ridiculous amounts of like, I'm not even chaos res capped at any means, right? I'm not ailment immune. I'm not like stun immune. I just think like at some point you have to make a decision on where your character journey will go. Either it has like crazy DPS or it has crazy defense or a good all-round build. But I think even with like super high investment, the damage is not crazy good and the survivability is not crazy good either. So that's why I would say I'm like kind of done with this build after finishing the challenges, but I still want to try it out, and I also wanted to share my opinion, my thought process, as well as how I came up with this character with you guys. So maybe you want to take a character like that into another league and just test it out. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and next video.